This is part 3 of the Apocrypha timeline. Today, we will discuss the historical settings, the authors, and the date the text was actually written, this time for each book of the Maccabees. Shalom and Shalom Israel. Hello Christians. What up to everyone else? Welcome to today's discussion of Something to Think About. Presented by the brothers. Today's discussion will be on the Apocrypha chronology and composition, specifically on the Maccabees. Hashtag Apocrypha timeline. Administrative. I will quickly go over some administrative details before we get started. Setting expectations. I plan on reading virtually everything on my slides and my notes since some folk can only listen and are unable to watch. I will be following a script. It helps me to stay on point. Reminder, this channel is a little slower than some other content creators. It's more like a classroom setting, although we are not teachers. Therefore, no smoke and daggers here. Pause if needed. Sources. These are some of the sources we will use in today's discussion. Pause if needed. Here are some more sources we will use in today's discussion. Pause if needed. Here are some additional sources. Pause if needed. These are the remaining sources we will use in today's discussion. Note, we do not claim that any image or source that we use and/or reference is 100. Pause if needed. Fair use disclaimer. This video is for educational and scholarly purposes only. Pause if needed. Doctrine disclaimer. This video contains our personal opinions and interpretations and is not meant to dictate doctrine. This video does not contain hate speech, nor do we advocate violence of any kind. Pause if needed. Before we get into today's topic, it's that time to give all praises to the Most High. Once again, how we do it. I will see you in a minute.
All praise to the Most High.
All right now.
All
Sing it.
praise to the Most High.
Go ahead, brother.
All
Come on now.
praise to the Most High.
All right now.
All praise.
Praise to the Most High.
Praise him. Come on now. Come on.
All praises. All praises. Come on now.
Yahawah.
Giving all praises to the Most High. Once again, I couldn't do what I do without the Most High. You couldn't do what you do without the Most High. Let's get started. We will now discuss the Apocrypha timeline, Part 3, the Maccabees. This is the agenda. We will recap the previous 3 episodes, the 400 Silent Years, Books of Ezra, and the Books of Baruch. We will review the historical timelines. The bulk of today's discussion will be discussing the various Maccabee books. Then I will give a quick summary. I will cover the rest of the Apocrypha books in upcoming timeline videos, Lord willing. Recap. This is the first video of this mini-series, titled Apocrypha 400 Silent Years and Non-Canonical Books, Episode 36. This is the thumbnail.
Check it out.
Check it out. In this episode, we discussed some of the various reasons they use to describe the Apocrypha as silent or non-canonical. Okay? Reason number 1. These books appear in the Septuagint, Greek Old Testament, but not in the Hebrew Bible. Reason number 2. Not divinely inspired, lacks authority. Reason number 3. Questionable or uncertain authorship. Reason number 4. Doctrinal differences, conflicts with apostolic or Protestant theology. Reason number 5. Not quoted by Jesus or other New Testament writers. Reason number 6. Contains no true messianic prophecies. Okay? In this episode, we gave actual sources which made each of these claims describing the current Protestant Apocrypha as silent or non-canonical. Recall that these are the typical books listed in the current Protestant Apocrypha that we presented in episode 36. This is the cover of my copy of the Protestant Apocrypha. It has these books: 1 Esdras, 2 Esdras, Tobit, Judith, Esther including additions, Wisdom of Solomon, Sirach, also known as Ecclesiasticus, Baruch, including Letter to Jeremiah, 3 Holy Children, Susanna, Bell and the Dragon, Prayer of Manasseh, 1 and 2 Maccabees. This is the second video of this mini-series and the first timeline video, titled Apocrypha Timeline, Books of Ezra, Episode 37. This is the thumbnail.
Check it out.
In episode 37, we discussed that there are several books attributed to the prophet Ezra. We discussed the various titles of Ezra. Titles include 1 to 6 Ezra. The title depends on with whom you are speaking, the manuscript in which it is written, etc. We did a breakdown of 1 and 2 Esdras from the current Protestant Apocrypha. We highlighted relevant information and presented historical settings. The main takeaway, 2nd Esdras chapters 1 and 2 and 15 and 16 are separate from 2nd Esdras chapters 3 to 14. Okay? 2nd Esdras chapters 3 to 14 is the core work of 2nd Esdras. Those other 4 chapters were added. Okay? I want to emphasize that these discussion points here, okay, were provided by several sources. Please watch episode 37, Books of Ezra, for more details. This is the third video of this mini-series and the second timeline video, titled Apocrypha Timeline, Books of Baruch, Episode 39. This is the thumbnail.
Check it out.
Episode 39, we discussed that 1 to 4 Baruch have a historical setting around the time of the Babylonian captivity or dynasty. We discussed how all of the books of Baruch may have been attributed to the scribe Baruch, which was used as a pseudonym. 1 Baruch and the letter of Jeremiah seem like legit Israelite writings. 3 and 4 Baruch may have been reworked by a Christian redactor. 2 Baruch seems more like an Israelite writing than both 3 and 4 Baruch. I question any works written after the first and definitely after the third Jewish-Roman wars as being legitimate Israelite writings. I want to emphasize that these discussion points as well were provided by several sources. Please watch episode 39, Books of Baruch, for more details. Apocrypha timeline, historical setting. Where do the Protestant Apocrypha stories occur within the canonical Israelite writings? We will start once again by reviewing the previous timelines discussed in the previous 2 episodes, 37 and 39, Books of Ezra and Books of Baruch. Okay? I am repeating the previous historical setting timelines for those who have not watched either of the previous 2 timeline videos. Okay, come on guys, what have you been watching? You haven't watched the previous 2 videos? Okay, I forgive you. This is the temple timeline from the video Israelite Writings, Various Temples, Defined, episode 15. Okay, I will go over a few of these markers. We got, like, for example, Solomon Temple, built 959 BC. We got Ezekiel's vision, 573 BC. Up here you see Solomon's temple was destroyed, 586 BC. Here, Onias IV builds a replica temple, 154 BC. Okay, Herod renovated and then completed the courtyard, okay, 63 AD. And as you can see up here, the second temple was destroyed, 70 AD. Okay, I will be using this timeline as a reference. You can pause at any time if needed. This is the Israelite captivity and/or dynasty timeline from the video Israelite Writings, Law is Important, episode 12. I want to use these dynasties as a reference in addition to the temple reference markers. The dynasties you see here, Assyrian, approximately 732 to 612. Then you got the Babylonian, followed by the Persian, Greek, Hasmonean, and then Roman. Okay, these are approximate timelines. Also, the Roman, this timeline dynasty did not end at 135. This just coincides with the Third Jewish-Roman War for the discussion we had in episode 12. Pause if needed. I will now rearrange the temple timeline to make room for the dynasties. Now we need to make additional room so we can add the Protestant Apocrypha historical setting timeline. Okay, this orange time bar shows the approximate date range of most of the historical settings within the current Protestant Apocrypha of today, except for Psalm 151 and possibly chapters 1 and 2 and 15 and 16 of 2nd Esdras, which we discussed in the previous video on the books of Ezra. Again, we will be using the Bible Hub timeline throughout this Apocrypha mini-series for almost all of the historical settings since they fall within the Bible Hub timeline. We are not saying that the Bible Hub timeline is 100. We are just using it as a reference. Okay? Now we have a correction to make. In the previous 2 timeline videos, we had the approximate timeline on the right here, as approximately 160 BC. However, the historical time frame of Simon the high priest ended approximately 140 to 135, depending on the source. Therefore, we updated this date and moved it slightly to the right to make it a more correct approximation. So now you see it's at 135, okay? Had the Bible timeline extended through the current Apocrypha time frame, I may have caught this approximation error earlier. I have to blame someone. As we keep learning, there might be even more corrections to be made. So bear with us. Again, this updated time bar shows the approximate date range of most of the historical settings written within the current Protestant Apocrypha, with the possible exceptions of Psalm 151 and possibly chapters 1 and 2 and 15 and 16 of 2nd Esdras. Regarding Psalm 151, this is for those that believe Psalm 151 belongs within the Israelite writings or the Apocrypha. Psalm 151 is a story about King David when he was young, about 200 years to the left of this timeline. So you can see right over here, approximately 1024 BC is the historical setting for Psalm 151. Okay? Also, chapters 1 and 2 and 15 and 16 of Esdras may have been a reflection of current events post 70 AD to the right of this timeline, and that depends on who you believe. Okay? So as you can see right here, 2nd Esdras 1 and 2, 15 and 16. Okay? This historical setting is according to some sources, and they claim that this is for these 4 chapters. Okay? You see right here, 70 AD, that's when the Second Temple was destroyed. Some sources claim that these 4 chapters, actually the historical setting is post 70 AD. We discussed these 4 chapters in the previous video, Books of Ezra. Apocrypha information. Reminder, for each Apocrypha book discussed in our timeline videos, we will present the following information: description, date the text was written, authors, languages, and historical setting. Once again, we will not show the date found if applicable. For example, if and when a scroll was found in a cave, we will not present information on such findings in today's discussion. Purpose. The purpose of these timeline videos is to simply provide some detailed information on each Apocrypha book to get a historical perspective on what each book is about, and eventually discuss how they fit or do not fit into the canon.
What do you think?
Before we discuss the Maccabees, we have a few questions. How many books of Maccabees exist? Do you believe 1 and 2 Maccabees is legitimate Israelite history? How do you feel about authors using pseudonyms? Do 1 and 2 Maccabees warrant inclusion into the current Bible? Please pause this video and put your answers in the comment section below. Once again, I hope you paused the video and provided your answers. We would definitely like to hear from you. We would like to hear what you think. Okay, let's continue. The Maccabees. Note, most of the following information that I will present for the remainder of this discussion will come from one or more of the sources listed on our source slides in the administrative section of this video. We will start today with the name, Maccabees, and see what scholars have to say. Again, most of what I am going to share will come from a source. The Maccabees. Maccabees was the name given to the Hasmonean family. Hasmoneans or Hasmoneans is the proper name of the family. The Maccabees is a celebrated family who defended Israelite rights and customs in the 2nd century BC. Originally, the designation Maccabeus was applied only to Judas, the 3rd son of Mattathias the Hasmonean. Mattathias' other sons had different surnames. Judas' surname was applied not only to all the descendants of Mattathias, but even to others who took part in the revolutionary movement under the leadership of the Hasmoneans. Okay, remember this information comes from one or more sources. 1 Maccabees, information and timeline. This document, 1 Maccabees, is in the current Protestant Apocrypha book. 1 Maccabees, description. 1 Maccabees comes from church fathers Hippolytus, Origen, and Jerome. The actual title of the book in its original form is not known. The title is transliterated by Origen as possibly, bear with me, Sarbeth Sabaniel, that's one word, or two words, Sarbeth Sabaniel. Sorry. It may take on any of the following translations. Book of the house of the ruler of the sons of God. Book of the dynasty of God's resistors. Book of the house of the Hasmoneans. Book of the house of the princes of Israel. The scepter or history of the princes of the sons of God. Again, all of this information here comes from one or more sources. 1 Maccabees, description continued. The reliability is confirmed by the numerous dates which are given. The narrative is a sober, straightforward, and trustworthy account of the Jewish struggle for religious liberty and political independence during the years 175 to 135 BC, from the rise of Antiochus Epiphanes to the death of Simon the Maccabee. The Roman Catholic Church reaffirmed the canonical status of both 1 and 2 Maccabees at the Council of Trent, 1545 to 1563 AD. There is no book among all the Apocrypha which is distinguished by greater marks of trustworthiness than 1 Maccabees. Okay? Note this date right here. See, 135? This obviously coincides with Simon the high priest, and it's why I had to modify the approximate Apocrypha timeline a few minutes ago. Again, as we present our findings, we are learning as well. 1 Maccabees, author. Anonymous or unknown, possibly a Palestinian Jew based on writing style. Educated, well-versed in Hebrew scriptures and temple public worship. Seems to be attached to the Hasmonean Dynasty both ideologically and personally, and to have some connection with the ruling class. The author was loyal to and zealous for the Mosaic Law. The author was concerned with stating the facts in their bare simplicity and from the Jewish point of view. A tolerant attitude toward the Sabbath, and there is no hint of a belief in life after death, leads some to believe the author was a Sadducee. 1 Maccabees, languages. Originally written in Hebrew and translated to Greek. Jerome claims that Hebrew was the original language. Although there are questions regarding Hebrew proper or Palestinian Aramaic as the original, it appears scholars are leaning towards Hebrew. There are many indications in the book that it was translated from Hebrew rather than from Aramaic. Included in early current Latin versions of the Bible and eventually passed to the Vulgate. Okay? It says eventually passed to the Vulgate.
Here is some extra credit for those who are taking the class.
Okay, extra credit. Didn't Jerome translate all of the books in the Vulgate? So, why does it say eventually passed into the Vulgate?
Now that's really something to think about.
I know the answer. I'm just not going to share it today. Maybe in a future video. 1 Maccabees, date written. The approximate date written is 90 to 70 BC. However, some portions of the book have been inserted or added to the original at a much later date. Torrey, a biblical scholar, claims the book was written between 140 to 125 BC. Due to a reference of a tomb in chapter 13, with other factors involved, Some believe the earliest possible date of this book to be 110 BC. Since John Hyrcanus died in 105 BC and his acts and wars were documented, then it appears that this book was written after 105 BC. Date written continued. Must have been written before the Roman conquest under Pompey, since the writer speaks of the Romans as allies and even friends. This book could not have been written after 63 BC because Pompey took Jerusalem and desecrated the temple by entering into the Holy of Holies, and that event was not documented. Therefore, the book must have been finished sometime between the years 100 to 70 BC, closer to the former than the latter date. Most scholars date 1 Maccabees to be around 100 BCE. 1 Maccabees, historical setting, includes brief summary of the death of Alexander, Ptolemaic kingdom to the Seleucid Empire, reign of Antiochus IV Epiphanes, war against the Israelites, the desecration of the temple, the occupation of Jerusalem, the Maccabean revolt, the rise of the Hasmonean Dynasty, the 5 sons of Mattathias, John, Simon, Judas, Eleazar, and Jonathan, the rededication of the temple known as Hanukkah, the alliance with Rome, the acts of Nicanor and Trypho. If you do not read documents like 1 Maccabees, then you will not learn about these significant Israelite stories.
That's something to think about.
Recall this orange time bar shows the approximate date range of most historical settings within the current Protestant Apocrypha. Since 1 Maccabees is in the current Apocrypha, then it obviously fits historically within this timeline. So, where does 1 Maccabees fit in historically? Historical setting for 1 Maccabees right here, 175 to 135 BC. From the rise of Antiochus IV Epiphanes to the death of Simon the Maccabee. Note, the first 8 verses of 1 Maccabees is a brief summary of the death of Alexander the Great, which was approximately 323 BC. So for the first 8 verses, you'll see that. But then the bulk of everything is right here. That's why scholars are saying this is the historical setting, 175 to 135. Date written, 140 to 70 BC. Recall that one scholar believes the date to be written between 140 to 125. Some believe parts of this book were added after 70 BC. Right here. Most seem to think about 100 BC. So you look right in the middle of this area here, right in the middle of the orange time bar, about 100. Notice that unlike Esdras and Baruch, 1 Maccabees, according to sources, is written relatively close to the historical setting of 1 Maccabees. Esdras and Baruch, according to sources, were written hundreds of years after their historical setting.
That's something to think about.
So you can see right here, if it was written, let's say 100 BC, and the historical setting is here, 175 to 135, you're only talking 35, 50 years later. So that's way different than Esdras and Baruch. Two Maccabees. We are now in the second book of Maccabees, Information and Timeline. It's also known as Book Recounting the Matters Pertaining to Maccabeus, referring to the deeds of Judas, Maccabeus. This document, 2 Maccabees, is also in the current Protestant Apocrypha book. 2 Maccabees. Description. 2 Maccabees is not a continuation of 1 Maccabees, but deals with part of the history contained within 1 Maccabees. They are quite distinct. Luther said it is a second book, not the second book. contains strong anti-Hasmonean animus, both subtle and explicit. However, there is no word said against Judas specifically. 1 Maccabees focuses primarily on the heroic exploits of the Hasmoneans, while 2 Maccabees shows more spiritual assistance through prayer and miraculous interventions at crucial moments. Example, divine protection instead of the strength of the Maccabees themselves. 2 Maccabees. Description continued. The contrast between the sober, straightforward, historical presentation of 1 Maccabees and the exaggerated, often fantastic statements in 2 Maccabees, together with this chronological disorder, creates an unfavorable impression regarding the reliability of 2 Maccabees. Seems to have a Pharisee attitude or bias. The tendency of 2 Maccabees to subordinate the facts of history to the interest of Pharisee propaganda raises suspicion to its trustworthiness. There are many parallel events between 1 and 2 Maccabees. 2 Maccabees parallels to the first 7 chapters of 1 Maccabees. Again, these are comments from several sources, okay? All of these. 2 Maccabees, author. There are 2 different people to consider here, the author and Jason. The anonymous author belongs to Alexandrian rather than to Palestinian Judaism. Anonymous rendition of an earlier Maccabean history which had been composed by a Greek-speaking Hellenistic Jew called Jason of Cyrene. Cyrene was possibly under the control of the Ptolemies at that time. Some scholars identify Jason of Cyrene with Jason, son of Eleazar, who was sent by Judas Maccabeus, possibly Jason's uncle, on an embassy to Rome after the defeat of Nicanor. Author continued. Some scholars think that Jason was a contemporary of Philo of Alexandria, about 20 BC to 54 AD. The actual writer condensed Jason's 5 books into 1. A different source claims 2 Maccabees is composed of 3 documents, 2 letters prefixed to an epitome of a larger historical work. The condensed collection, larger historical work, may be Jason's 5 books, and that collection may have been prefixed by 2 letters. The epitomizer has prefixed a preface of his own. 2 letters may have been added later by another writer and are not regarded as authentic. Author continued. The style corresponds to that of an historian who is quickly compressing as well as popularizing some earlier source. Author must have removed large sections of Jason's document, including all references to Mattathias, and summarized it and embellished it to create his document for the sake of edification with pious amplification and the miraculous element. Recall the spiritual aspect I mentioned in the description section. 2 Maccabees appears to be more spiritual than 1 Maccabees. 2 Maccabees, languages. In general, in most of the manuscripts, 1 and 2 Maccabees are found together so that their textual history is similar. Generally acknowledged as being originally written in Greek. Included in the early current Latin versions of the Bible, and hence passed into and preserved in the Vulgate. The Greek text may have been subsequently translated into Latin, Syriac, Coptic, and Armenian. 2 Maccabees, date written. There are questions regarding if 1 Maccabees was known by the author of 2 Maccabees. 2 Maccabees at the earliest must be written later than the date of 1 Maccabees, 100 to 70 BC. Nies, a German scholar, believes that 2 Maccabees was written before 1 Maccabees, an opinion which very few scholars agree. Book was known to Philo, who died about 40 AD. Date written continued. There is considerable difference of opinion as to the date, both of Jason of Cyrene's work and of the book in its present form. Some scholars give it a date from 161 to 106 BC. The epitomizer or actual author may have been a Jew who lived at Alexandria and wrote 2 Maccabees between 60 BC and 50 AD. Jason may have wrote his documents during the 2nd century BC. Okay. Based on this and some other texts I did not list, I am leaning towards sometime after 125 BC as the date written for 2nd Maccabees, in my opinion. 2 Maccabees historical setting. Seleucus IV Philopator, or Philopator, however you say that, 187 to 175 BC, king of the Seleucid Empire. It was during the reign of this king that the episode recorded in 2 Maccabees chapter 3 took place. Heliodorus is sent to Jerusalem to investigate and seize funds reportedly kept in the temple treasury, maybe 178 BC. Several sources claim the historical setting is from 175 to 161 BC. Last chapter describes the death of Nicanor, approximately 161 BC. We will use the approximate date range of 178 to 161 BC, the start being before the end of the reign of Seleucus IV. Okay, once again, this time bar is the approximate Protestant Apocrypha historical setting of all the books in the Apocrypha. Okay? Just like 1 Maccabees, 2 Maccabees is also in the current Protestant Apocrypha. So it also fits historically in this timeline. So where does 2 Maccabees fit in historically? 2 Maccabees, historical setting. As you can see right here, the historical setting for 2 Maccabees is approximately 178 to 161 BC, from the Seleucid Empire to the death of Nicanor. Okay? You got the dates for Jason, 161 to 70 BC. Okay, recall that Nice, a German scholar, truly believes that 2 Maccabees is fully trustworthy and believes it is older and more authentic than 1 Maccabees. That means if 1 Maccabees was written in 100 BC, then 2 Maccabees was written before then, like 105, 110, 120 BC. Again, based on some other texts that I did not list, I am leaning towards sometime after 125 BC, in my opinion. Okay. Notice once again that the writings of Jason right here, of Cyrene, according to sources, was written relatively close. Right here, this is the historical setting. Here's the date of the writings. Okay. Relatively close to 2nd Maccabees. Okay, recall Esdras and Baruch, according to sources, were written hundreds of years after their historical setting. Okay. Actual author dates possibly between 60 BC and 50 AD. I did find sources that indicate the actual author may have compiled 2 Maccabees between 60 BC and 50 AD. This is the person who wrote the preface, possibly added or included 2 other letters, and included the writings of Jason into what we now know today as 2nd Maccabees. Let's continue. 1, 2, 3. 3 Maccabees. We are now in the 3rd book of Maccabees, information and timeline. 3 Maccabees description. Despite its title, the content of this book bears no obvious relation to the events surrounding the Maccabean revolt, nor to its heroes. The title of the book is a misnomer. It is a fictional story about Egyptian Jews half a century before the Maccabean period. So they say. Fictional. Okay, so they say. Perhaps the title is due to a mistake on the part of a copyist. A historical novel in which there is much more romance than history, and even more so silly and superficial. So they say. Contains some historical foundation, but it is of no great value from the standpoint of history, religion, or ethics. So they say. I am not claiming the legitimacy of 3 Maccabees or not. It just seemed like these comments from these sources are from actual haters of Israel, in my opinion. Description continued. Book represents the most orthodox type of old-fashioned Judaism, with its devotion to the temple, the law, and the peculiar position of the chosen people. Sounds like an Israelite talking here. This book describes certain persecutions of the Jews by Ptolemy IV, Philopator, king of Egypt, approximately 222 to 205 BC. This king tries to enter the temple and is met by a miraculous repulse. As a result, he determines to wreak his vengeance on the Jews of Alexandria and of Egypt as a whole, first by interfering with their religion and then altering their political status. Description continued. The underlying view of this book is very similar to 2 Maccabees. The story as it stands is full of impossibilities and bombastic exaggerations. However, there are certain historical facts which prompted much of what the writer discussed. Some argue that the book is only a fragment of a larger work, or the opening has been lost due to the possible abruptness of the introduction. Others argue this book has been drastically edited and contains plenty of inserted messages which have introduced confusion into the story. 3 Maccabees, author. Both the author and place of writing are unknown. Since the setting is in Alexandria, Egypt, and having clear signs of being familiar with Ptolemaic history and culture, these point to Alexandria as home, but this is by no means certain. The work was originally written in Greek by an unknown Egyptian, or more specifically, an Alexandrian Jew. Languages. Survived in Greek, the language of its original composition. There is also an Armenian version which is dated 400 to 600 AD and is found in most manuscripts of the Armenian Bible. It is not in the Vulgate, but is found in the Syriac Peshitta. This may explain why it was not included in the canon of the Roman Catholic Church or in the traditional Protestant Apocrypha. It is included in the canon of the Eastern Orthodox churches. 3 Maccabees, date written. A firm date of composition remains elusive and disputed. They can be no earlier than the Battle of Raphia in 217 BCE, since that is how the narrative begins. Possibly written in Alexandria about the same time as 2 Maccabees and the letter of Aristeas, not far from 100 BC. Others claim the language of the book and its familiarity with the terminology of the Ptolemaic court argue for a date of about 100 BCE. Date written continued. The evidence of the ancient document written on papyrus suggests that it belongs to the Ptolemaic period, approximately 222 to 205 BC, not the Roman period. Some believe the threatened change in the status of the Jews and the promise of Alexandrian citizenship to those who abandon their religion reflect the situation of these Alexandrian Jews after Rome conquered Egypt in 30 BCE. Evidence points to 1st century AD, though 1st century BC is possible. Cannot have been written after the destruction of the temple, 70 AD. 3 Maccabees, historical setting. The setting is in Egypt, more specifically in Alexandria. The scene of 3 Maccabees is placed in the reign of Ptolemy IV at the time of the Battle of Raphia, 217 to 216 BC. It describes events affecting an earlier generation of Jews prior to the Hasmonean family and/or dynasty. Describes Jews under Ptolemaic rule in Egypt versus the Seleucid rule in Judea. Took place at Jerusalem and Alexandria during part of the reign of Ptolemy Philopator, king of Egypt, between the years of 217 and 209 before Christ. Okay, once again, the Apocrypha timeline, the Protestant Apocrypha timeline. Okay, so where does 3 Maccabees fit in historically within this time bar? Historical setting for 3 Maccabees is approximately 217 to 209 BC, the Battle of Raphia. 3 Maccabees is written approximately 207 BC to 50 AD. Okay? Based on what little I've read, I'm leaning towards a written time frame of 207 to 100 BC, more closer to 100 BC. So I'm thinking it's more in here. Okay? Scholars are all over the place, but I'm thinking here, and I'm not a historian. Let's continue. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 Maccabees. You probably guessed it. We are now in the 4th book of Maccabees, Information and Timeline. It's also known as a discourse concerning the supreme power of reason, also known as a treatise on reason, aka on the supremacy of reason, aka Josephus's treatise on the Maccabees. 4 Maccabees. Description: a philosophical investigation in the form of a sermon on whether religious devotional reason is absolute master of the passions. The narrative part is clearly an embellishment on 2 Maccabees. 4 Maccabees chapters 5 to 7, persecution of Eleazar, is an expanded version of 2 Maccabees chapter 6, 18 to 31. The same can be said of 4 Maccabees chapters 8 to 12, torture of the 7 brothers, in relation to 2 Maccabees chapter 7. And the historical preamble in 2 Maccabees chapters 3, 6 to 11 has been expanded in 4 Maccabees chapters 3 verse 20 to chapter 4 verse 26. Description continued. In 4 Maccabees, Judas and his family exploits are never mentioned. Although 4 Maccabees is based on 2 Maccabees, there is no hint of a resurrection of the body unlike 2 Maccabees. The book is to encourage the Jews to abide faithfully by the Mosaic law and encourage them to observe in every way their ancestral religion. Jews were being surrounded by a philosophical heathenism, taunted for obeying the law, and in danger of being led astray from their faith. The author is trying to convince them of the reasonableness of their divine law and its unparalleled power to control the human passions. So who is this author, okay? Anonymous Torah-observant Jew. Demonstrates a greater mastery of the Greek language, philosophy, literature, and rhetoric than any canonical author. Any canonical author. Author may have been a Pharisee and a Hellenist. Clearly a Jewish book written by a Jew for Jews. There are several references to figures from the Old Testament, and in chapter 4 verse 20 there is an explicit reference to the citadel in Jerusalem of our native land. The reference in chapter 4 verse 20 to our native land rules out Palestine as a place of composition. Author continued. Other places such as Alexandria and Athens are possible, but the strongest candidate is Antioch, according to a source. The form and tone of the book unquestionably show that the writer was an Alexandrian Jew who possibly resided in Egypt or somewhere far away from the Holy Land. Utilizes the Stoic virtues in the cause of Jewish orthodoxy by using the 4 Stoic Stoic virtue definitions of judgment, justice, courage, and temperance, he insists that these are best attained by men being born and brought up under the law of Moses. Okay, that's interesting. Before we continue, what is a Stoic? I'm glad you want to know. Okay, like I mentioned in previous videos, we use dictionaries from 1823 to 1913 because they seem to be more authentic. Okay, how they define Stoic. The name of the porch in Athens where the philosopher Zeno taught. A disciple of the philosopher Zeno, who founded a sect, a distinct and separate religious body. Men should be free from passion, unmoved by joy or grief, and submit without complaint to the unavoidable necessity by which all things are governed. Hence, a person not easily excited, an apathetic person, and one who is apparently indifferent to pleasure or pain. Okay? So the author of 4 Maccabees utilizes the Stoic virtues in the cause of Jewish orthodoxy. So they say. Back to the author. Eusebius, Jerome, Photius, Suidas, many manuscripts, and the early editions of the Septuagint, as well as editions of Josephus's works, ascribe the authorship of this book to the celebrated Jewish historian Flavius Flav Josephus. There may be a confusion of names, as the work may have been written by some other Josephus. Internal evidence strongly points to another Josephus. This evidence is based on several statements made within the book itself. Like I've said plenty of times, sources do not agree. 4 Maccabees, languages. The book was certainly written in Greek, as all scholars agree. Book was translated into Syriac and Latin, later into French, and, like everything else, into English. Date written. It is impossible to fix the date, possibly written before the destruction of the temple in 70 AD and after the composition of 2 Maccabees, approximately 60 BC to 50 AD. If the date of the book had been as late as 100 AD, its Orthodox Judaism would probably have interfered with its acceptance among Christians. Had to exist when Jews and Christians had cordial relations. One source claims a written date range of 20 to 130 CE or AD. A date in the first half of the 1st century AD would suit all requirements. The date may fall between 63 BC and 38 AD, roughly speaking, within 2 generations before or 1 generation after the Christian era. Okay, once again, here is the approximate time frame of the Protestant Apocrypha. Okay, so where does 4 Maccabees fit in historically? So right here, recall the historical setting for 2 Maccabees, which is approximately 178 to 161 BC, from Seleucid Empire to death of Nicanor. Okay? So right here, we have the dates for Eleazar and the 7 brothers, approximately 167 to 164 BC. Okay? 4 Maccabees appears to be a rewrite of these 2 stories. Okay? Date written, approximately 63 BC to 100 AD. Based on what I have read, I am leaning towards a written time frame of no earlier than 63 BC and no later than Jesus' ministry, okay? Before then, so let's say approximately 30 AD, in my opinion, okay? Again, I am no historian. So, I believe the date written is probably before Jesus, back to here, maybe 63 BC, okay? As you can see, the stories of Eleazar and the 7 brothers within 4 Maccabees falls right here within 2 Maccabees. All right, let's continue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 Maccabees. You probably guessed it again. We are now on the 5th book of Maccabees, Information and Timeline. Chapters 1 to 16 of 5 Maccabees is known as the 2nd book of Maccabees according to the translation of the Hebrews. Chapters 17 to 59 is known as the 2nd book of Maccabees. And it's also known as Arabic 2 Maccabees. 5 Maccabees. Description. The designation 5 Maccabees was first given to the book by Henry Cotton in The 5 Books of Maccabees in English, published in 1832. The 5 Maccabees in the translation Siri Peshido, edited by Siriani, is really nothing more than a Syriac version of the 6th book of Josephus, The Wars of the Jews. 5 Maccabees contains the history of the Jews from the attempt of Heliodorus to plunder the temple, 186 BC to about 6 BC. Description continued. Nothing more than a clumsy compilation from 1 and 2 Maccabees and Josephus, except for 5 Maccabees chapter 12, which is the only original part. Book itself has no historical worth beyond what is in 1 and 2 Maccabees and Josephus. Contains several historical and chronological blunders, some owing to mistakes committed by transcribers. My comment. Every page of the 5 books of Maccabees in English has the year at the top of each page for all 5 books of the Maccabees. I find that impressive. 5 Maccabees. Author. Unknown. This book is a compilation made in Hebrew by a Jew from ancient Hebrew memoirs and chronicles. Others claim author may have been a Jew and may have lived sometime after the destruction of the temple in 70 AD, according to 5 Maccabees chapters 9 verse 5, chapter 21 verse 30, chapter 22 verse 9, and chapter 53 verse 8. Author makes large use of the works of Josephus, who died approximately 95 to 100 AD. Possibly started writing approximately 75 AD after the First Jewish-Roman War. 5 Maccabees. Languages. The original work was almost certainly composed in Hebrew, though there is no trace of a Hebrew text. This conclusion is supported by the numerous Hebrewisms within the text. There exist Arabic, Latin, and eventually French translations. Date written. This book is a compilation after the destruction of Jerusalem, which were written shortly after the events transpired. Ginsburg claims the passages regarding the author's 70 AD time frame as late additions, claims original work is about 6 BC. 5 Maccabees historical setting. Includes the Maccabean period and to a great extent is parallel with 1 and 2 Maccabees. Records the post-Maccabean history down to the birth of Christ. Contains the history of the Jews from Heliodorus' attempt to plunder the treasury at Jerusalem till the time when Herod unalived his family members. Time frame 184 BC to 6 BC, thus embracing a period of 178 years. Once again, the Protestant Apocrypha time frame, time bar of most of the stories within the Apocrypha. So where does 5 Maccabees fit in historically? Historical setting for 5 Maccabees includes 184 to 6 BC, okay, from 1 and 2 Maccabees to the near birth of Christ. So this is the historical setting. Okay, recall that Ginsburg claims the original work is about 6 BC. That's the only source I can find on that. Okay? Original and additions may have been written approximately 75 to 100 AD. it appears that sometime after 70 AD, where the compilation of 5 Maccabees seems like a good guess. Recall that this author referred to writings of Josephus, and sources claim the date written is after the destruction of Jerusalem. Summary: the Maccabees.
What do you think?
Before we close out this discussion, we have a few questions. Have you read any Maccabee books? Have you ever read about the Ptolemaic and Seleucid empires? Do you have any knowledge of the history during the 400 years between the books of Malachi and Matthew? How do you feel in general about unknown authors? Please put your answers in the comment section of this video, or you can send us an email. Please check the description box of this channel for that email. Or we always try to have our email in the description text of all of our video discussions. Once again, we thank you for your responses. Summary: most of the information presented today came from one or more of the sources listed on our source slides in the administrative section of this video. We presented very little of our own personal opinions in this entire video. We presented detailed information on the 5 different books attributed to the Maccabees. Here is a brief summary for each book. 1 Maccabees records the historic fortitude of Mattathias and his 5 sons against the Seleucid Empire. 2 Maccabees demonstrates how the Hasmoneans overcame hardships through spiritual assistance and prayer. 3 Maccabees describes the persecution of the Egyptian Jews during the Ptolemaic Dynasty. 4 Maccabees details the persecutions of Eleazar and the 7 brothers mentioned in 2 Maccabees. 5 Maccabees records history from the Maccabean period, including much of 1 and 2 Maccabees and Josephus, down to the birth of Christ. Okay? I will now provide an overview of all 5 books of Maccabees within the timeline. Maccabees historical settings. So as you can see here, we got the Greek time period, which includes the Ptolemaic and Seleucid dynasties. It goes from off the left up to 60-some to 30 BC. And then we have the Roman time period, which includes these individuals: Augustus, Nero, Vespasian, and Titus. So from 60-some to 30-some to the past hour time frame of the Second Temple being destroyed. Then we got 5 Maccabees. So you see its historical setting goes from approximately 184 to 6 BC. Okay. Then we got 1 Maccabees historical setting, 175 to 135 BC. Then we got 2 Maccabees historical setting, 178 to 161 BC. Okay, up here. Then we got 3 Maccabees, approximately 217 to 209 BC, the Battle of Raphia, right here. And then 4 Maccabees, approximately 167 to 164 BC. Okay, the story of Eleazar and the 7 brothers fits right in here in 2 Maccabees. Same time frame. Okay, notice that the historical settings for Maccabee books 1 through 5 are all within the so-called 400 silent years. And as we just demonstrated in this video, there was absolutely nothing silent about these 200 plus years. This concludes today's discussion on Apocrypha, chronology, and composition, specifically on the Maccabees. Hashtag Apocrypha timeline. Purpose. Once again, the purpose of these timeline videos is to simply provide some detailed information on each Apocrypha book to get a historical perspective on what each book is about, and eventually discuss how they fit or do not fit into the canon. Research.
Remember, do your own research.
The views contained in this video were our personal opinions and our interpretations of sources used and were not meant to dictate doctrine. We recommend to everyone, do your own research. We plan to list all of our sources that we use in all of our discussion videos. We are citing the sources and, when appropriate, providing page numbers so you can trust but verify. We encourage everyone, read as much as you can. There is a lot of historical Israelite literature out there for all of us to access so we can learn about our history. And we admit, some material is hard to find. We want to thank you for watching today's discussion of Something to Think About. I am Brother Mitch. My brother is Brother Mike. We are the brothers. We are disciples of Yahawashi. I want to say Shalom and Shalom, Israel. Goodbye, Christians. Aight to everyone else. Till next time.
Follow the brothers.
On YouTube,
Hebrew Connect TV.
X,
Fanbase, Rumble,
Or visit their website.
See also Facebook, Gab, and Truth.
The following is an HBO special featuring the brothers.
Yo, can you help the brothers out?
HBO special.
you can use PayPal.
The brothers need some digital money.
Or you can use Cash App.
Every little bit helps.
Please support their efforts.
You can even use a credit card.
And Venmo.
Why are you selling cookies?
Please help support this organization.
It's okay if you can't give. Just spread the word.
That's just as important as giving.